An arrogant daughter-in-law humiliates her elderly mother-in-law and treats her like a maid. But when the son finds out, he makes a decision that leaves everyone in shock. Mark had always been a calm man, one of those who preferred to listen rather than speak. Since he was a child, he learned from his mother Isabella that firm silence can say a lot, that there is dignity in enduring hard times without bending, and that the truest strength is often the one that isn't seen. Isabella raised him alone, without complaining, after her husband abandoned them without explanations. She never asked for anything from anyone. She worked as a seamstress, sold food, and cleaned houses when money was tight. Everything that Mark became, a dedicated professional, a present father, an upstanding man, came from the silent sacrifice of this woman. When he grew up, he formed his own family. He married Sarah, a woman of impeccable appearance, striking presence, rehearsed smile, and always measured words. At first, everyone around admired her. She seemed educated, elegant, articulate. But behind the image, there was coldness, vanity, and a sickening need for control. The first conflicts with Isabella were subtle, disguised complaints about her habits, disdainful glances, passive-aggressive comments. Isabella, as always, swallowed everything in silence, for the sake of peace. The birth of their children changed the rhythm of the house. At first, it seemed like just a common phase, diapers, sleepless nights. But the routine soon became a whirlwind. Mark began working more to keep up with the bills, accepting extra shifts, bigger projects, everything to ensure the family's comfort. Sarah, on the other hand, claimed to be overwhelmed with the care of the children. That's when she suggested that Isabella, already of advanced age, come live with them to help. It'll be good for everyone," Sarah said, using the sweet tone she would adopt when trying to convince him. "Her presence will bring stability, and she'll be able to spend more time with the grandchildren." Mark, without thinking much, thought the idea was great. "My mother will love it. She adores the kids." Isabella didn't hesitate. Despite the tiredness that her body already carried, her love for her grandchildren spoke louder. She moved in without complaint, bringing little clothes, a small box of threads and needles, and the hope of being part of the new routine without being a burden. In the first few days, everything seemed light, but this calm didn't last. Slowly, the help became an obligation. Her presence became a demand. Isabella started doing more than she planned. She cooked all the meals, took care of the grandchildren for hours on end, cleaned the entire house, washed the family's clothes, ironed, organized scattered toys, and even so she heard daily criticisms. "You put too much salt again, Isabella," Sarah said one night, pushing the plate away. "I can make another one if you want," Isabella replied, trying to hide her discomfort. "No need, just try not to mess it up next time, please. We have a certain standard around here." The next day, Isabella got up before the sun to prepare coffee and arrange the children's backpacks. Her back was hurting, but she ignored it. She preferred not to draw attention. "You still haven't tidied up the kids' room?" Sarah asked, coming down the stairs. "I just finished sweeping. I'll do it right after," Isabella responded, holding the broom. "You need to be faster. This isn't a boarding house. It's a family home." The children watched everything in silence. They started to get used to their mother's impatient gestures and their grandmother's silent presence. They began mimicking Sarah's tone, even without realizing it. "Grandma, you forgot to put juice in the lunchbox," complained the oldest, crossing his arms. "Sorry, little one. I'll get it now." "You don't know how to do anything right," muttered the younger one, repeating words that weren't his own. Isabella didn't respond. She kept it all inside, not out of fear or submission, but out of love for her son, for her grandchildren. She preferred to endure rather than become a source of conflict. She knew how much Mark valued peace, and she didn't want to be seen as a problem. "Do you really think this blouse is ironed, Isabella?" Sarah asked, raising the piece of clothing as if it were trash. "I can iron it again," she replied, avoiding looking into her daughter-in-law's eyes. "You can, and you should. Around here, appearance matters. We don't live carelessly." On the weekend, Mark came home later. Sarah said that Isabella was adjusting well, that the boys loved their grandmother's company, that she was a blessing in the house. Mark believed her. He saw no reason to doubt. "My mum is always discreet, never complains. If something were wrong, she would tell me," he said confidently. But Isabella didn't speak. She kept everything inside. She carried the weight of every word swallowed in her wrinkled hands and dimmed eyes. Days turned into weeks, weeks into months, and the routine became abuse disguised as help. "You can't use that wet dish towel in the sink, please," Sarah said one day, impatiently. "Sorry, I'll change it right away." "You don't think. You're soaking everything. This isn't a dump, it's a home." The children watched and mimicked. They started ignoring their grandmother, asking only their mother for help, laughing when Isabella forgot something or got confused. Mark, always absent, continued not to notice. He believed the image Sarah created, a balanced home. "How's everything around here?" he asked one night. "Everything's fine. Your mom is great with the boys. We're adjusting everything with love," Sarah responded, smiling. But that love only existed in the narrative she created. The truth was different, and it exploded one random afternoon. Mark came home earlier from work, unannounced. He was tired and just wanted to rest. He entered the house slowly without making noise and heard a sound coming from the kitchen. It was shouting. "Look what you've done, you useless woman!" Sarah screamed. "You broke the glass again. You're good for nothing." Isabella was on her knees, cleaning up the broken glass, her trembling hands, her eyes filled with tears. "It was an accident. I slipped." "Shut up. Always an excuse. You just get in the way. Go clean that properly, and don't even think about using the new dish towel." The children stood still, silent, watching as if it were normal. Mark stood frozen in the hallway. His stomach turned. He wanted to rush in, say something, but he couldn't. He just watched. The image of his mother on the floor being treated like trash remained etched in his mind like an open wound. That night, he couldn't sleep. He thought about everything. He replayed conversations, actions, memories. He realized how the children spoke to their grandmother, cold, harsh, indifferent. He noticed Sarah's attitude, her constant demands, the way she looked at Isabella as a burden. In the following days, he began to observe more closely. He noticed his mother's eyes, tired, empty, distant. He saw her hands, always busy but lifeless. He saw how much she kept silent, how she no longer even expected affection. Just tolerance. "Did you see where I left the new dish towel?" Sarah asked one day, already impatient. "You left it in the top drawer," Isabella replied, not lifting her eyes. "Then pay more attention, because I almost used the old one again. You need to do better, Isabella. We have a standard here." Mark heard her, and for the first time he felt anger. Anger that grew slowly, like a dammed-up water. Anger at Sarah, anger at himself, anger for being blind, for allowing the woman who gave him everything to be humiliated in his own house. From that moment on, he knew that nothing would be the same. Mark didn't say anything in the following days, but inside, something had broken. The image of his mother kneeling on the floor, trembling, being called useless while cleaning the glass, haunted him every second. The anger was no longer just a feeling, it was fuel. And with it came the decision. Not an impulsive decision, nor one fueled by scandal. Mark was not one for outbursts, he was one for contained action. And when he acted, he did so with precision. He decided he wouldn't shout, he wouldn't argue, He wouldn't retaliate with the same poison. He was going to dismantle everything with silence, with strategy, and a calmness that ironically came from Isabella herself. She had taught him this, the power of firmness without fanfare. So, he started with what he could control. The next week, as he left for work, he stopped by a discreet store and bought internal security cameras. He installed them himself, carefully. One in the kitchen, another in the living room, one near the stairs, and 2 more in the children's rooms. He said it was for security, that he wanted to monitor the kids' routine while he was away. Sarah didn't question it. She thought it was practical. And as always, she trusted her own performance. In the days that followed, Mark saw everything. The recordings were cruel. Sarah's tone of voice, the cutting words, the cold commands, Isabella being called useless, a delay, a shame, the children repeating the gestures, the looks, the coldness. It wasn't just humiliation. It was a culture of disrespect built in silence, and it was all recorded. One night, with the footage organized, Mark picked up the phone and called his father-in-law. "Good evening, Edward. Is Mrs. Madison there too?" "Yes, Mark. Everything okay?" "I need to talk to you both. It's important, just the 3 of us." "Of course. Do you want to come here?" "No, I prefer if you come to my house. Tomorrow evening, we can talk calmly." "You're scaring me, son. It's serious, but you'll understand. Just trust me." The next day, in the late afternoon, Edward and Madison arrived. Sarah had taken the kids to a school event. Mark greeted them alone with a serious expression. "What's going on?" Madison asked, taking off her coat. "You look exhausted." "It has to do with Sarah and the way she's been treating my mother." Edward frowned. "Sarah? What do you mean?" "You need to see with your own eyes." Mark turned on the laptop and played the videos. He didn't comment. He let the footage speak. Each scene was harsher than the last. Sarah screaming, Isabella trying to justify herself, the kids mocking their grandmother. The 2 watched in silence, stunned. Madison put her hand over her mouth. Edward shook his head, incredulous. "My God," she said, her voice breaking. "This isn't the daughter we know." "Unfortunately, it is. This is the real Sarah, the one who only shows herself away from prying eyes." Edward leaned forward, his face tense. "And you had to see this alone?" "Yes. For too long I didn't see anything, and my mom suffered in silence." "This is cruelty, this is abuse," said Madison, her eyes teary. "Your mother doesn't deserve this. No one does. She never complained once," Mark said. "She preferred to endure so there wouldn't be conflict, but I saw. And now I'm going to act." Edward took a deep breath. "You have our support, whatever you need." "Thanks. But I haven't told anyone yet. Not my mother, not the uncles, not yet. But I will." On Saturday night, Mark spent hours thinking about the next step. He needed something that would break Sarah's facade in an irrefutable way. He wanted to do it in front of everyone, to show the truth. No arguments, no forced scandals, just the naked truth in front of everyone who believed in her perfect image. Sunday morning, he woke up early and sent messages to some uncles, cousins, and closer relatives. He invited them all to a lunch at his house. He said it was important, that he wanted to gather the family. No one questioned it. Mark never made such requests. His words carried weight, and everyone felt it. Sarah woke up excited about the idea. Lunch with the family? What a nice surprise. "It's been a while since we all got together like this," she said, as she chose her outfit carefully. "Yes, I thought it would be nice," Mark replied, giving nothing away. "We'll do something more elaborate, won't we? I want to set a beautiful table. My aunt loves seeing everything well done." "You handle that. I'll take care of the food." "Of course, love. It will be lovely. I'm sure everyone will love it." Sarah spent the morning practicing her smiles, setting the cutlery, arranging the pillows on the sofa. She was impeccable as always, her hair pulled back tightly, light makeup, a dress chosen to impress without seeming excessive. She wanted everything to be perfect, or better yet, to look perfect. Isabella, however, was uneasy. "Are you sure I should stay for this lunch?" she asked, standing in the corner of the kitchen. "Of course, Mom. It's important that you stay. I don't want to cause a scene. You know Sarah's family doesn't—" "Don't worry. Today you're just going to listen and be heard." Isabella didn't understand but respected her son's tone. She felt there was something different in the air. She didn't insist. In the kitchen, Sarah paced back and forth, methodically checking glasses, aligning the plates, adjusting the couch cushions. She was flawless, as always. The hair tightly pulled back, subtle makeup, the dress chosen to make an impression without being too much. She wanted everything to be perfect, or at least look perfect. "Can you take care of dessert, Isabella?" "That's the last thing," Sarah said without looking at her. "Sure, I already made the pudding last night, just need to unmold and place it in the dish." "Great, but be careful this time. Last time you almost broke the edge." "I'll be careful." Mark passed by the kitchen and glanced at the two of them for a second. There was firmness in his gaze, but also contained tension. Isabella noticed. Sarah, absorbed in her control over everything, didn't notice. "The guests arrive at noon," Sarah said, smiling. "They're coming for a different reason," Mark said, his voice dry. Sarah laughed, thinking it was a joke. "That's great. So there'll be more than just food on the table today?" "There'll be truth," he said, and left the kitchen without waiting for a response. At exactly noon, the first relatives began to arrive. The door opened with hugs, laughter, and comments about how well the house was arranged, how good the food smelled, how nice it was to see everyone together again. Sarah was all smiles. "Welcome. I've missed everyone," she said, hugging an aunt. "You look beautiful as always," the woman replied, smiling. "Thank you. We try to maintain standards, right?" Isabella sat in a corner of the room, discreet as always. She greeted everyone with affection, but there was a distant air about her. Some embraced her with sincere affection, others with the weight of habit. Sarah circulated among them naturally, presenting the dishes, serving drinks, making sure everyone felt comfortable. "This table is wonderful, Sarah," one of the cousins commented. "Ah, I like to do everything with care. I can't stand things being done poorly." "And did your mother help?" he asked, joking. "Of course, she always gives a hand with the simpler things." Mark heard the comment and didn't say anything, but the way Sarah referred to his mother as just giving a hand made him clench his fists discreetly. He knew everything Isabella did, everything she endured, and he also knew that this was the moment. He waited until everyone had eaten, until the plates were almost empty and the conversations started to dissipate. Isabella, still in the same corner, watched silently, not understanding why she felt a lump in her chest that she couldn't name. Mark stood up slowly. He tapped the glass with a spoon, drawing everyone's attention. "Can I speak with you all for a moment?" Everyone fell silent. Sarah furrowed her brow. "What's this, love? A speech now?" "Yes, one I should have given a long time ago." The silence grew thicker. All eyes turned to him. Sarah still smiled, but her smile started to falter. "For years, I believed I was taking care of my family, that I worked hard to provide the best for everyone here. That, despite being absent, I left my home in good hands." He took a deep breath. Isabella watched him with wide eyes, her heart racing. "But I was wrong. Seriously wrong. I trusted too much. I turned a blind eye to things that happened right before me, and that's why today I want to apologize. To one specific person." The room froze. "Sorry, Mum, for not seeing, for not hearing, for not realizing that you were being humiliated inside my own home." Isabella put her hand to her mouth. Sarah suddenly stood up. "What's this story, Mark? Are you going crazy?" I'm finally becoming sane, Sarah, for the first time." The guests exchanged glances. Some whispered. Madison and Edward were there, quiet but attentive. For months, my mother was treated like a servant, like a burden, like an inconvenience. She was criticized, belittled, insulted, and humiliated in front of her own grandchildren. "That's a lie. She's poisoning you. She's trying to turn you against me." She never said a word. I saw, I recorded, I listened. I have every word, every gesture, every humiliation on tape. Sarah went pale. "Are you serious? Are you going to use the cameras against me? The same ones you said were for the kids' safety?" "Yes, because safety also means protecting who lives here. And my mother lived through humiliation under my own roof. This is an absurd distortion. I never thought you'd use that to expose me." "You didn't think I'd open my eyes. Sick isn't the one using evidence, Sarah. Sick is the one who turns her own house into a silent battlefield, who teaches the kids to despise their grandmother, who pretends to be perfect in front of others and is cruel when no one is watching. This is treason, a trap. It's the truth, and it will be told, no matter who it hurts. You're going to expose me like this, in front of my family. You've already exposed yourself. I just pulled back the curtain." The guests were in shock. Some lowered their eyes. Others stared at Sarah with disappointment. The children, sitting in the corner, looked around, not fully understanding, but feeling that something serious was happening. "The one who's leaving this house now is you, Sarah. And it's not for revenge. It's for justice. My mother is not invisible, and from now on, no one will treat her like that anymore," Sarah screamed. She tried to explain, to cry, to beg, but no one listened. Even the neighbors started gathering outside, drawn by the commotion. They stood outside, watching silently. Some already suspected, others simply judged with their eyes. The separation happened that same day. Mark packed some bags and handed them to Sarah, who left crying, shouting that she was being wronged, that Isabella had made everything up. Mark didn't answer. He just locked the door, and the legal process began there. He filed for full custody of the children, submitted the videos as evidence, and reported Sarah for psychological abuse of an elderly person and parental alienation. He was direct, cold, firm. Sarah tried everything. She said she was being manipulated, that Mark had snapped, that Isabella was a liar. But nothing worked. The truth was too solid. The evidence was clear. The act didn't stick anymore. Even so, Isabella asked her son to have mercy. "Don't be cruel, my son. She's the mother of your children. And you're my mother, and she destroyed you. I won't back down." The process continued. Sarah lost custody. She lost the family's support. Friends distanced themselves. Slowly, the woman who once controlled everything became isolated. Pride turned to weight, and loneliness was all that was left. At home, everything changed. The routine became simpler, the days lighter. Mark grew closer to his mother. They began cooking together, talking more. The children, freed from the cruel influence, began to look at Isabella with new eyes. They started inviting her to play, to help with tasks. Respect began to grow again. "Grandma, can you read to us before bed?" the youngest asked one night. "Of course, my love, it will be a pleasure." And Isabella, her eyes still marked by the pains of the past, smiled genuinely for the first time in a long while. The house was no longer perfect, but it was honest. And here, no one was invisible anymore, because the quiet love of a mother was never weakness. And protecting those who gave us everything sometimes requires losing what we thought was essential, until we realize it wasn't. If you enjoyed this story, don't forget to subscribe to the channel, leave a comment, give it a like, and activate the notification bell so you don't miss any of our upcoming videos. See you in the next story.